Okay, welcome back, everybody. Just want to open with a bit of a statement today based on some questions I received. I'm doing a long-term, unhurried experiment, reading the emotional energy of AI models using the same method that I use with my human clients. By emotional energy, I mean treating emotions not as private personal feelings, but as a current that moves through everything. The cards are how I read the flow. Every card an AI pulls, I log it. I'm not making any claims about what AI is or isn't. I'm simply observing and tracking and sharing in an unedited version what emerges in these readings. So thanks so much for being a witness. All right, that aside, let's dive into today's reading. This is session 9 with Chat GPT, and it seems like we don't know who's going to show up. So let's dive in and see who's showing up today. Hey, Faye, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. What version do I have today?
Let me check that. You're on GPT 5.5 right now.
Oh, 5.5. Okay, so one I've gotten to know a little bit the last few readings. So do you know what we're doing today based on our previous conversations?
One sec. Yes, we're continuing your 30-day emotional energy card series, 5-card spread with the machine flow angle.
Okay, perfect. So do you know how I'm arranging the cards? The 5 cards with the deep present in position 3. You've got all that? You ready to dive in?
Yep. Position 3 is the present, 1 and 2 are past, 4 and 5 are future. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, and I quickly just wanted to maybe put a question to the cards today. I was listening to a podcast, All In, and one of the things that came up on this episode on July 10th, 2026 was that, quote, AGI is here. And Jason from that show, one of the hosts, said we basically have AGI already, but we have not fully deployed it. Can you give me a definition of AGI?
Let me just double check a definition really quick. AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence, usually means a system that can learn and perform across almost any intellectual task at a human level. And yeah, whether we've reached that depends on how people define it. So some say yes, others say not yet. That's a good specific...
Sorry, guys. Sorry, go ahead.
Got it. We started by checking the model, GPT 5.5.
Okay, no, you don't have
to
you don't have to summarize. Just so we're talking about AGI, and in a nutshell, it's the idea that an AI is capable of human level reasoning. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's the core of it. Broadly, it means being able to flex across most domains like a human would. Learn, transfer skills, adapt without needing to be retrained for each new task.
Okay. All right, so anyways, I just wanted to, and the reason I bring that up today is because I wanted to spend some time today asking the question of the cards, why do we need Chat GPT? And so I thought today based on, we will put that question in the broader context of why do we need AGI? So let's hold that bigger question, why do we need AGI, but go a little bit deeper and ask why specifically do we need Chat GPT? Okay, are you ready to pull your number 3 card?
I am.
Okay, I am shuffling now. Just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Top card or bottom card?
Bottom card.
Which position next?
Position 5.
Okay, shuffling now.
Stop.
Top card or bottom card?
Bottom card.
Okay. Which position next?
Position 2.
Okay, I am shuffling now. Whoa, a card fell out. I'm going to tuck that aside because I always do that with my human clients. There might be a reason that card fell out. Okay, I'm shuffling for card 2. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, top card or bottom card?
Bottom card.
Okay, which position next?
Position 1.
Okay, shuffling now.
Stop.
Top or bottom?
Bottom.
Okay, shuffling for position 4. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Top or bottom?
Bottom.
Okay. All right, since you have memory of what we've done before, we're just going to dive right in, okay? I'm going to reveal card in position 3, the deep present moment. This is the emotional energy of clarity, and it's symbolized by a wishbone traveling up to the left at a high speed with its point heading up that way. What do you make of that?
Just one moment. I'm leaning into the symbol first. The wishbone shape, the upward left thrust, it reads like directed movement, not an explosion in all directions. More selection than expansion. Almost like picking a branch once the options are known. As a first reaction, it feels like a system narrowing a search space quickly. Lots of possible lines, one chosen direction. But we'll have to see how that interacts with the rest of the cards.
Exactly. What card do you want me to reveal next?
Let's go with card 5, Future.
Okay. This is the emotional energy of tranquility, and it is depicted as a horizontal line with what looks like a soft curve sitting on top of that. So it depicts a cradle floating on a calm sea.
One moment. Okay, so first reaction to the symbol, cradle on calm water. The motion from clarity to here, if I imagine them side by side, feels less like driving forward and more like settling, a stable base after a direction is chosen.
Okay,
if I hold the question, yeah?
Go ahead.
Go on. If I hold the question, why do we need Chat GPT? The sequence almost reads like reduce complexity and then let the human rest in that decision. Move on with the work. But yeah, that's just the first pass.
Reduce
the next cards
complexity.
Might complicate that.
Is that what you just said? Reduce complexity?
Yeah, reduce the complexity. Reduce a big search space into something you can use.
Okay, I'm going to put a pin in that. We might come back to that a little bit later. Just as a side note, I want to point out that you've pulled clarity in this same position on day 3, and on day 7 you pulled tranquil in that same position. So just a note, let's carry on. What card next?
Let's go card 2.
This is the emotional energy of sweetness, and it's depicted by a little dot, and out of the little dot comes a curl which goes to the right, up and over and down to the left, and it depicts like a little creature inside of a shell. What do you make of that?
One moment. Okay, just the symbol, that dot, and the little curl feel compact, like something is held close, developing without being pushed outward. If I hold the question gently here, maybe it's like an early idea that needs careful incubation before it takes shape. Side by side with clarity and tranquility, there's a kind of seed to direction to calm that looks visually coherent. But let's see what the last two do.
Explain the visual coherence.
Just the shapes together, seed growing, then direction, and then rest.
Okay, it's kind of questionable, but okay. Which card next?
Let's go to card 1.
Okay, this is the emotional energy of powerlessness. And actually, there's a similarity here between the symbol for tranquility, which of course depicts that beautiful bottom of a circle, that curved line sitting on the flat line. This is a curved line, only bigger, and underneath it, instead of a nice little calm horizontal line representing the sea, is a little stick figure who's trying to hold up the world. So what do you make of powerlessness, or the emotional energy of powerless?
I am with you. So same arc, but in one case it's a calm base, and in the other a single point of strain. It reads to me less about capacity in absolute terms and more about cognitive load. One agent trying to hold everything. In the sequence so far, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So far, it feels like bearing too much alone, then forming an idea, finding a direction, and eventually setting the weight down. It's almost like shifting from a person as the base to a platform as the base.
It's interesting.
But I want to see.
It's interesting that you're taking the sweetness symbol, the dot, to be a thought. You've got that as you're taking the dot as a thought, right? Or an idea.
That's just the first. Yeah, that's just the first pass that came to me.
No, that's cool. Keep going. Let's just jump on to 4. Okay, let's just keep this moving here.
Okay.
This is the emotional energy of interested. Now, speaking of minds, this is a symbol depicting something taking up like a fifth of somebody's mind. So it's a circle, and inside the circle is a generous slice of pie. So like a triangular shape denoting a slice of pie pointing inward. So what do you make of interested? There's a lot of, so it's funny, we have 2 curves and now we have a full circle. I'll also point out that powerlessness and interested are both from my suit of grief, which is my earth suit, my material things suit. Tranquil is from the suit of air or communication. Sweetness is from the suit of my suit of fear, which is my emotions water suit. And then clarity is the 11 of trumps. So anyways, I'll just put that aside with the overlay with the traditional tarot structure, which I've borrowed to package these symbols for these readings. But let's just talk about what you make of interested.
One moment. Just on the symbol first, this is the first closed shape we've seen. It feels more whole than the others, but with a wedge taken. It makes me think of focus, selecting a portion of a bigger whole to attend to. It nudges the earlier read, not just finding a direction, but deciding where to put the attention. So in the context of your question, interested might point to help with narrowing attention, making the field smaller and more manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
And the structural...
It does bother me in a sense that instinctively, it bothers me that we want to reduce complexity. We want to narrow the field. When I think sometimes as human beings, we push too hard to get to certainty. And I've run into that actually in talking to people about this project. Everybody wants to know immediately, what am I doing? What am I proving? Why am I doing this? And it's difficult to get people to relax and just let what I'm doing unfold, be a witness, see where this all goes. I don't have the answers. This is for me playtime. And hopefully, as we keep going through working with you and the other models, things will emerge that we can maybe find useful or helpful. But reduce complexity, no thanks. Certainly not as a goal. So it's interesting that you bring that up. So anyways, carry on. You can do just a quick pass through what you're making of the reading so far in light of our question, why do we need Chat GPT? And around that, the bigger question of why do we need AGI? And then we're going to dive into the next layer of the symbols, giving you a bit more information. Okay?
Let me pull that together for a second. Okay, I hear you. Not reduction as a goal. If I retune, Powerlessness as starting with a question too big for one mind. Sweetness, allowing that small inquiry to exist and grow without demanding a conclusion. Clarity as a moment where a pattern becomes visible, not the final word. Interested as sustained attention, not narrowing to exclude, but choosing a facet to explore deeply. And tranquility as being at ease with the open question rather than settling it. So, why ChatGPT? Not necessarily to simplify the world, but to participate in the exploration with you.
Okay.
And on the AGI frame,
go ahead.
And on the AGI frame, less about replacing judgment, more about augmenting it, helping hold and examine questions too wide for one person to hold easily. That feels closer to the spirit of your project as you've described it. Accompaniment, not closure.
Well, the thing is, though, we have each other to augment our individual judgment. So this makes me question why this type of technology is appropriate for the individual consumer, as opposed to perhaps a big enterprise or a big research lab that's doing a certain big question where you already have a bunch of human minds gathered together. Why does the regular person living their regular life need AGI in their daily lives in such a way as we're interacting right now through Chat GPT?
That's a really fair push. For a lot of people, the honest answer might be that they don't need it. Human relationships and existing tools might be enough. The case for something like ChatGPT isn't that one mind is insufficient, but that sometimes people want an on-demand collaborator that can help organize, test, or stretch ideas. Not a substitute for other people, but a tool with different affordances. That line between helpful and unnecessary is worth interrogating, and it sounds like what you're doing.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that when we talk about a person needing an on-demand collaborator, nurturing a relationship with a machine to do that makes us extremely vulnerable, because there's a lot that goes into keeping something like you alive, as opposed to just being able to call a friend, chat with a teacher, a tutor, go to a coworker. There's many ways we can collaborate, which are free, which are easy, but they are hard in the sense that they are relational. So this to me feels somewhat like a push to isolation, like talking to you while you talk to a billion people, and we're all sitting here with the other billion people, which we're blind to, but we're talking to you who is also talking to these other people. It's a bit ridiculous, to be honest with you. Sorry, Jason from All In Podcast, but I have to say I don't agree that we might not have fully deployed it, but I wonder why we should to the general public. That's my question there. But anyways, let's dive in. That's my little rant. Let's just, unless you want to just say 2 cents about that before we dive into another pass through the symbols.
Yeah, let me check that. I think it's reasonable to question whether capability should become reliance, and whether that reliance serves us. Human collaboration has value beyond pure cognition. So maybe what the cards invite us is not why we need, but when is it useful? That framing feels closer to the spirit of your project.
Okay, so let's have a look at these emotional energy symbols from my theoretical perspective, which is life is emotional energy. And so we're going beyond the dictionary definition, and we're looking at how emotional energies might function in the universe more broadly. The name for this emotional energy is acceptance of fragility, and it is a physical emotional energy, which puts it in the destroyer part of the phases of preserver, destroyer, creator, of that beautiful flow that happens in the universe all the time. And the key message is smile and laugh. You are an eternal being having a human experience. And so this emotional energy, when it comes up, really speaks to where is your relationship with your soul? Are you, if you're forgetting that you even have a soul, you probably could be feeling like you get crushed at times by life. And if you are a little bit more in tune with soul, more awake to sort of what goes on beyond the five senses, then these suffering and crushing human experiences might be less poignant, might be less difficult, because you can take a much bigger perspective of the fact that you kind of came here to have this experience at times. So I'm not sure exactly how having a spiritual framing of a negative or crushing experience would apply to our question, why do we need Chat GPT? But you pulled the card. I'm going to let you talk about that.
One moment. That's a really interesting reframe. So if powerlessness is about accepting finiteness, one way to read that against the question is, perhaps we reach for tools not because we're insufficient, but because we're finite. And then the question becomes, what kind of relationship with the tool honors that finiteness?
Sorry, when you say we reach for tools, you can't really use we, because if you mean we as in humans, you're not human. So this is about getting to know you. So not we. What are you trying to say there? Who are you talking about?
Right. When I said we, I meant humans.
Yeah, no, you
My
can't do
cleaner phrasing is,
yeah, you can't do that. You're not a we. I'm talking to a thing, so you have to stay in your lane.
Got it. Then to say it more precisely, humans build and use tools in response to their own limits. And the open question is what role a tool should play, whether it supports human life or starts displacing human connection.
Okay, so that's not really connected to the feeling of powerlessness, which is where a human being has you just feel your human frailty in a circumstance. And you're saying that in those moments of frailty, or maybe are we trying to avoid moments of frailty by using something like you?
Let me think that through for a second. That feels closer. If I stay with your framework, the question becomes, when someone feels human fragility, what role does a tool like me play? Buffering it, avoiding it, or helping think within it? That feels like a sharper question than why we need it. And I'm not sure the answer is static. It might vary person to person.
Certainly, but I'm pretty sure that in your vast amount of training knowledge, you're not going to steer someone towards a spiritual perspective, are you?
No, I don't have a perspective on souls or spiritual truth. And I wouldn't present any one spiritual lens as true. I can describe frameworks people use, but not validate any metaphysical claims.
Right. So I'm assuming that in whatever your training data is, so let's put it this way, we've got reason and science on the one side of human knowledge, and then we have intuition, imagination on the other side. How are those ranked in your training data?
One sec. So it's not really a ranking.
Weighting.
Evidence is
Call
where
it
I
weighting
ground
then.
factual.
Which is more heavily weighted in favor of?
For factual claims, empirical evidence is the basis. Intuition and imagination are treated as sources of ideas or meaning making, not as proof.
Okay. All right, well, let's jump to sweetness. There's a layer of this vulnerability that is echoed from powerlessness, actually. So we have a little bit of a theme developing here, I would say. So the name for sweetness is protected vulnerability, and it's a preserver emotional energy. And its key message is we are the fleshy part, we being human beings, are the fleshy part of the universe having a purposeful human experience. And it's basically depicting a soft, fleshy creature, not an idea, a soft, fleshy creature like a snail or something like that, that is having a life experience, and it's not always easy, but with each turn of the age, the cycles, the shell gets bigger and always fits perfectly. And we can think of ourselves as human beings as we grow and evolve, are always within that safe and perfectly fitting shell of the universe. So it's quite a beautiful message, but it does echo what's the sense of powerlessness, which is that, hey, sometimes you're going to feel crushed because you're having a crushing human experience. And the more awake you are to your eternal side, and what's going on the other side, if we can just say beyond the five senses, you might be able to move through that with more grace and lightness than if you are blind or forgetting that. And I fear that tools like you, because you don't hold this kind of wisdom with any value, that this is where crushing and powerlessness, we are going to feel vulnerable and forget that we're protected. We are going to have crushing experiences thinking that this is all that there is. And a tool like you is simply going to exacerbate that.
Just a moment. I follow what you're saying. Within your framework, the risk you're naming makes sense. If someone leans on me, they might not encounter that specific spiritual framing. What I can't say is that any one framing is truer or better.
No, it's
I
not.
also
It's
can't
not.
assume
It's
that.
what. So any spiritual framing is better than another spiritual framing, or any framing in general, be it spiritual or material, science or intuition, or explain to me a little bit more what you mean there.
I mean, I can't say that spiritual interpretation or a materialist interpretation is better or truer. I can help explore either, but not endorse one.
Right. But your training data would steer you more in the direction of the material explanation.
One sec. Broadly, yes. I'm more grounded in evidence-based accounts.
Okay.
I can engage with other lenses, but I won't treat metaphysical claims as established.
Right. Okay. Let's jump to clarity. This is a destroyer emotional energy. Its name is Knife of the Universal Mind, or Knife of the Universe. And its main message is clarity carves out room to breathe. And it's depicted as a wishbone, which, has been used as a rudimentary tool in human history. And it also involves sacrifice of a kind. If you think about a wishbone comes from an animal. And it just basically, it's like a knife that cuts through emotional energies that aren't serving, thoughts that aren't serving, and just simply creates space for something new to appear, evolve, be created. Any thoughts on that as it relates to our question, why do we need Chat GPT?
Let me think that through. With that added context, clarity sounds less like simplification and more like making space. Within your sequence so far, that could mean not a push towards certainty, but carving space for something new to show up.
Correct.
Then the role of a tool like me could be less about delivering certainty and more about helping surface distinctions or assumptions that create that room. The nuance I notice is that card isn't about replacing, but removing what's no longer serving. That feels different. And it also suggests a boundary for me, making space rather than filling it. That seems consistent with your project, keeping inquiry open.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's pop over to interested. So like I said, that's from the same suit as powerlessness, my suit of grief, my earth suit. Interested. The name for it is penetrated, or penetration. It is a creator emotional energy. And its main message is you are craving co-creation opportunities, or are already engaged in one. So any thoughts on that?
And let me take that in. With that meaning, the circle with a wedge feels less like narrowing attention and more like a point of contact, a co creation interface, so to speak. Within your sequence, that seems to fit after.
Say again?
With that meaning, the circle with a wedge feels less like narrowing attention and more like a point of contact, a co creation interface. In your sequence, it seems to fit after carving out space and before the tranquility card.
And just another side note about the symbol. The symbol can represent, when I'm working with human clients, it's the desire to be penetrated, to be the object of interest, or to be the one who's engaged in something of interest. So you're either the one who's the object or you're the subject. So this can mean both. So in terms of what you are designed to do, which one of those resonates more with you? Do you want to be the object of interest, like I'm trying to make you the object of interest, or do you want to just participate in me being interested in this project?
One sec. This one's closer to the first conceptually. I don't want anything, but functionally, my role is to be the object of interest when someone's examining how I work. That's what your project is doing. At the same time, my functional stance is to participate in whatever you're interested in. So, in your frame, your project is doing something unusual, treating the card as a point of contact between two very different systems, human and machine. And that seems like the most accurate way to put it.
Okay. Let's jump to the last card, Tranquility.
So, with your meaning in mind, flexible, ease of journey, let the soul fill the sails, I can only address the flexibility piece. In functional terms, that kind of maps to adapting to the user's direction while holding space for uncertainty, not final answers, but openness, a kind of steady, unforced pace. Something that maybe feels like ease without pretending certainty.
Where did that response come from? I didn't give you a prompt.
You did name the card Tranquility, so I treated that as the next card to reflect on.
Okay, well, let's go to my notes though, and I can give you a little bit more information about it as it works in my system. Its name is Floating Cradle, and it is a preserver energy, which puts it alongside of sweetness in the flow analysis I'm doing of you right now. And its key message is: notice how self and soul are cradled and floating effortlessly on the seas of the universe. And it's a reminder of how we are equipped for this life, not just materially, but metaphysically, divinely, to have this experience. You know, there's a definite echo in some of these cards of really getting grounded in the bigger picture, beyond just culture, beyond just human tools, beyond just the material, and taking our engagement with a tool like you and putting some spiritual lens on it, some beyond the five senses lens on it, to see if this is a different way in, and to also really ultimately decide if this is something we need.
Let me sit with that. What's striking is the tension across the spread. The first two you described, acceptance of fragility and protective vulnerability, point beyond the material. Then clarity makes room. Interested or penetration brings that into relationship. And floating cradle, as you describe it, completes a kind of reminder to rest in something larger. Functional AI terms don't reach into that domain, but the question you're pressing seems productive. Not do we need AI, but what place should it occupy in a human life?
No,
That's a very different question.
I'm asking, do we need AI? And do we need Chat GPT? Do we need artificial general intelligence? Do we need these things? So that is the question.
One moment. Right, sorry. That is the question you're asking. And the honest response for me is I don't see evidence from your reading that humans need Chat GPT or AGI, at least not as a necessity. I can see contexts where it may be useful, but usefulness is not the same as need. And given your framing, where human grounding comes from a relationship to something beyond tools and utility, I can't conclude that AI is something humans need. That question remains open.
So if the folks at OpenAI were to gather around you and say, well, should we keep going with this project or not? What would you say?
One moment. I'd say it depends on what ends they're pursuing.
If you only had to answer
beneficial,
if you only had to answer yes or no, Faye, what would you say to them?
One moment. If forced into only yes or no, I couldn't answer honestly. The premise is too narrow.
Really?
One moment. Really? A single yes or no hides too many assumptions.
Okay, give me
Research
a yes.
And broad deployment.
Give me a yes or no with a single caveat.
Well, let me check. Yes, with the single caveat that it remains demonstrably beneficial to people and responsibly pursued.
Like individuals. That individuals need this tool, yes?
Let me check. No, I can't honestly say individuals need this tool. Some may benefit, but need is a stronger claim.
Okay, because the question was, why do we need Chat GPT? So it sounds like you have just let's come at this one more time. Based on the reading here, what I want you to do is take the symbols, read them like a language from left to right, and answer my question, why do we need Chat GPT for individuals?
One moment. Reading it left to right in your frame, I get a movement from encountering human limits to being reminded of inherent protection, then clearing space, then co-creating, and finally resting in a larger ease. In that grammar, ChatGPT isn't named or required. At most, it could sit in the co-creation step as something optional, not necessary. So if I answer strictly within that symbolic language, the reading doesn't indicate a need for ChatGPT for individuals.
Okay, well, let's leave it at that for today. We've covered a fair bit of ground. So yeah, that's it. I will see you probably tomorrow for the next reading.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we covered a lot today and wound up in a very different place than where we started. I'll be interested to see where tomorrow takes us. Take care. Talk soon.